The rain had just begun to fall when Sarah saw the old man on the corner. He stood there under a flickering streetlight, his thin coat barely shielding him from the cold October drizzle. People passed him by, their umbrellas forming a moving wall that never broke. But Sarah stopped. Something in the way he held himself, proud but weary, tugged at her heart. She was late already. Her train would leave in 10 minutes, and the next one wasn't for an hour. Still, she hesitated, her hand tightening around the strap of her bag. The man was staring at a crumpled piece of paper, lips moving as if he were trying to read something through memory rather than sight. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked, her voice soft enough not to startle him. He turned, blinking as if waking from a dream. His eyes, pale blue and clouded with age, studied her face for a long moment before he answered. "I'm trying to find a place," he said. His voice trembled slightly. "It's an address, but I can't make out the letters too well anymore." Sarah stepped closer. The paper he held was soaked, the ink running in dark streaks. She could just make out the word St. Mary's Hospice, room 12. "Oh," she said quietly. "That's about 15 minutes from here. It's on the other side of the park." The old man nodded. 15 minutes, he murmured, almost to himself. "I was hoping to get there before visiting hours ended." "Would you like me to walk you there?" she asked before she could think twice. He looked surprised, then smiled, a faint, grateful curve of his lips. "That would be kind of you, miss. I'm sure you have somewhere to be, though." "It's all right," she said. "I can catch the next train." As they walked, the rain thickened into a steady sheet, drumming softly on the pavement. Sarah held her umbrella over both of them, though the wind fought to snatch it away. The old man walked slowly, each step deliberate, as though his body had forgotten how to hurry. "What brings you to St. Mary's?" she asked gently. "My wife," he said. "Her name's Margaret. She's been there 3 weeks now. They say it won't be long." Sarah's throat tightened. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He nodded, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "She doesn't say much anymore. But I still talk to her. She likes to hear my voice, even if she can't answer." There was a silence then, filled only by the rain and the distant hum of traffic. Sarah found herself wondering how many times he had made this journey, through rain or shine, just to sit beside a woman who might not even open her eyes. When they reached the gate of St. Mary's, the old man stopped. The building loomed quietly, its windows glowing with warm, amber light. "Thank you," he said. "You've been a blessing." "Do you need help getting inside?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, no. I'll manage from here." He hesitated, then added, "You remind me of my daughter. She used to help people, too." Sarah smiled faintly. "That's sweet of you to say." He gave her a nod and turned toward the entrance, walking slowly through the wet garden path. She stood there a moment, watching him disappear inside. Then she hurried off toward the station, missing her train but strangely not minding at all. 2 days later, Sarah found herself near St. Mary's again. She had a meeting nearby, and as she passed, she slowed down, her eyes drawn to the same garden path. Something urged her to go in, though she didn't know what she'd say if she saw him again. Inside, the hospice was quiet, the air filled with the faint scent of lavender and disinfectant. At the front desk, she asked timidly, "Excuse me, does a man named, actually, I never got his name. He visits his wife here, I think her name is Margaret?" The nurse's expression softened. "Oh, yes. That's Mr. Collins. He's here every day." Sarah felt a small flutter of relief. "Would it be all right if I said hello?" The nurse nodded and pointed down the hall. "Room 12, second door on the left." Sarah walked quietly, her footsteps muffled on the soft carpet. The door to room 12 was half open. Inside, she saw Mr. Collins sitting beside a hospital bed, holding a woman's hand. Her eyes were closed, her skin pale and still. He was speaking to her in a low, steady voice. "And remember that garden behind our first house," he was saying. "You planted those roses that never wanted to bloom. I kept teasing you about them. And then one morning, there they were, more beautiful than any I'd ever seen. Just like you." Sarah hesitated, then gently knocked on the doorframe. Mr. Collins turned, surprised but smiling. "Oh, it's you," he said warmly. "The young lady from the rain." She stepped inside quietly. "I was passing by and thought I'd check in on you both." "That's very kind of you," he said. "Margaret, my dear, we have a visitor. This is the girl who helped me find my way." The woman didn't stir, but he brushed her hand tenderly, as though she might at any moment open her eyes. "I'm glad you came," he said. "Not many people stop these days. Everyone's in a rush, you know." Sarah nodded, her throat tight again. She could see the love in every gesture he made, the way he smoothed her blanket, the way his thumb traced circles on her hand. "I brought these," she said, pulling a small bouquet of white daisies from her bag. "They reminded me of peace." He took them carefully, as though holding something precious. "She always liked daisies best," he murmured. "Said they were honest flowers. Simple and true." He placed them in a vase on the table, arranging them just so. Then he looked back at Sarah. "It means more than words could give, you being here." Her eyes stung, but she smiled. "It's nothing, really." "No," he said quietly. "It's everything." That visit turned into many. Sarah found herself stopping by after work, sometimes bringing tea, sometimes just sitting in silence while Mr. Collins talked to his wife. She learned that they had been married 53 years. They met at a dance in 1968, he had spilled his drink on her dress, and she'd laughed instead of getting angry. That laugh, he told Sarah once, was the beginning of everything. Some days, Margaret's eyes would flutter open. Once, she even smiled faintly when Sarah read aloud from a book of poems. Mr. Collins had tears in his eyes then. "She loved those words," he said. "But now, I think she loves the company even more." Winter came early that year. The hospice staff put up small decorations, paper snowflakes, strands of tinsel. On Christmas Eve, Sarah stopped by with a small box wrapped in gold paper. Inside was a knitted scarf she'd made herself. "For you," she said shyly. "It gets cold walking here every day." He chuckled softly. "You didn't have to, my dear." "I wanted to," she said. He unwrapped it slowly, his fingers trembling a little. "You remind me that kindness still lives in the world," he said. "Margaret would be happy knowing people like you are out there." That night, Sarah stayed longer than usual. They shared tea and stories, and for a while, it felt less like a hospice room and more like a home. When she finally left, snow had begun to fall, thick and silent. She turned back once and saw Mr. Collins through the window, sitting beside his wife, reading to her softly under the dim glow of a bedside lamp. A week later, Sarah received a call from St. Mary's. Her heart sank the moment she heard the nurse's voice. "Mr. Collins asked that we let you know," the nurse said gently. "Margaret passed peacefully last night. He was with her." Sarah went that afternoon. When she entered the room, she saw Mr. Collins sitting in the same chair, her hands still clasped in his. There was a calm in his face, a quiet acceptance. "She's gone," he said softly when he saw Sarah. But she wasn't alone. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered. He nodded, eyes shining. "Don't be. I got to say goodbye. And I think she heard me." They sat together for a long time, the world outside moving unnoticed. When Sarah finally rose to leave, he took her hand. "Thank you," he said. For walking me that day. For every visit after. You gave me something I didn't know I still had, hope. Tears slipped down Sarah's cheeks. You gave me something too, she said. You showed me what love really looks like. Months passed. Sarah kept visiting St. Mary's, though room 12 now held another patient. She brought flowers, sometimes read to those who had no visitors. Each time she walked those halls, she thought of Mr. and Mrs. Collins, of love that stayed even when words were no longer enough. Then, one spring morning, she received a small letter with no return address. Inside was a note in careful handwriting. Dear Sarah. By the time you read this, I'll have gone to be with Margaret. Don't be sad, she waited long enough, and now I get to walk her home. I wanted you to have something. Enclosed is a little keepsake. It's not worth much, except in memory. Inside the envelope was a locket. When she opened it, there was a tiny photo of Mr. and Mrs. Collins in their youth, smiling beneath a tree in full bloom. On the opposite side, a single engraved phrase, more than words could give. Sarah held it to her heart, tears falling freely. Years later, Sarah became a volunteer at St. Mary's. People came and went, stories began and ended, but she carried the memory of the Collinses with her always. When someone asked her why she did it, why she gave her time, her weekends, her quiet evenings, she always smiled and said, because once, a stranger showed me that kindness can outlast everything. Sometimes, when the light hit just right through the hospice windows, she could almost see them, an old man and woman walking hand in hand through the garden outside, surrounded by daisies that never seemed to fade. And in those moments, Sarah knew that love, in its purest form, was never gone. It simply changed shape, becoming the warmth we offer, the comfort we share, the small acts that mean more than words could ever give.